One, two, one, two.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And first of all, what you just seen was my attempt at showing you that you don't have to invest a megabucks in a reel-to-reel tape recorder in order to obtain wonderful, very enjoyable sound. This machine in the picture, Revox B77, it requires modest or some reasonable investment. Yes, it's definitely an investment, but it's not a humongous one, and the payback can be substantial. It's capable of very good sound, regardless of its price. Yes, it's not a bucks machine, but it is a very fine sounding tape recorder. This particular one is a high-speed 2-track version. And today I will try to answer one particular request, specifically the question about how do you calibrate this type of head preamps. I call this particular modification the 5EQ model because, as you can see on the right, there is a switch that allows you to select one of 5 possible equalization curves, including the RIAA one, should you need one. So the question naturally is, how do you calibrate all those settings? And today I will try to answer that question. The calibration of this machine is actually very easy once you master the main kind of basic steps. It becomes pretty much routine. And the quality of the calibration will depend to some degree on the tape recorder you have, the quality of its heads, and so on. But basically you can achieve very good result with this type of simple equalization correction. In terms of what you need to perform this calibration, the list is not very long, and obviously first of all you need the tape machine. The good tape machine, hopefully the one you're going to be using it with this preamp. Yes, you can have variations from one combination to another. If you switch the machine and the preamp around, you're going to have some minor variations, but if you are staying with good caliber machines, then your variations should be very minor. In fact, they should be negligible. On top of that, of course, you need a test tape, and the test tapes come in different shapes and they come from different vendors. I like this particular vendor, who is a German guy. His company is called Nick Electro, and he makes very good quality test tapes. And there is a reason I like those tapes besides just the price. Yes, they are priced substantially lower than some other brands, but they also have the particular structure which I like, and I'm not sure if any other test tapes have this structure. If you look here, you will see the test tones arranged on this machine. And the big one on the left is the full scale 0 dB test tone, 400 Hz test tone. Then you have a very long one for azimuth adjustment. That's a 16 kilohertz tone, and it will last for about 1 minute. The next one we can disregard for a moment. But then you have a sequence which is very, very useful, and that's what I really like here. It starts with a 400 Hz tone at minus 10 dB. And this is where your equalization is going to be happening. So you use this tone as a reference level for all other measurements when you're doing frequency response calibration. It is followed by the sequence of 20, 16, 12.5, 10 kilohertz, and all the way down to low frequencies, 500, 250, 125, 63, and 31.5 hertz. That allows you to test pretty much the whole range of the machine's operation. And then there are some additional tones, but we're going to disregard them for now. So if you're looking for a good test tape, I certainly recommend this one. Then you're going to need at least one AC voltmeter. And here I can highly recommend the HP 3400A model, which is usually quite available on eBay and other sources for reasonable prices. If you have two, that's just better, but you don't need to. You can calibrate one channel at a time. Oscilloscope is a must. And whatever your choice on oscilloscope is, that's fine. I like the HP one, but that's just me. You can use old Tektronix oscilloscope for all I care. Now, a couple of words about those voltmeters. They come with different scales. As you can see here, this is the most traditional decibel scale with a 0 located here. I like this arrangement because it's right below the mirror bar, which allows you very high accuracy of setting this particular point. Like I said, this is the most common scale. Most likely that's what you're going to find on eBay. But there have been other scales. So here is one which is very rare. You can sometimes see it for sale, but usually it's in bad condition. So I like this one very much because it's got linear decibel scale. It is the one on top. That scale is decibel in a linear fashion. And I would say that for some measurement it makes a lot of sense. It makes it much easier to precisely get the readings. So if you can get one like that, definitely take it. It's a very nice configuration. And then I very strongly recommend that you get that little mystery box, and we'll talk about it in some detail. What does it do in the system and why do you need it? It's a subject of a discussion and definitely some opinions. I'm expressing my own opinions. So what is that box and why do we need it? It is basically the format converter. If you look at the back of this little box, there are 4 XLR connectors and 4 RCA ones. You can give it standard XLR plus 4 dB tone, and it will convert it to single-ended RCA minus 10 dB output. Okay, that's cool, but why do we need it? But wait, you can also connect very low level tone to RCA input, and you will get much more amplified signal on XLR connectors. Okay, it will do that. We still don't have this answer answered. And the answer is located at the back of this little box. As you can see, there is very short length of RCA to RCA interconnects. And if you do it this way, what you get now is XLR inputs and a pair of XLR outputs, basically at the same level, except now we can use those gain controls here. So in essence, you have very high quality, very linear attenuator, variable attenuator, that allows you to adjust the gain between your preamp and your measurement system by anywhere from about minus 6 dB to about 6 dB. So next question is, why do we need it? And the reason you need it is because there are different worlds out there. And the world of the professional audio is different from the world of the home audio. In professional audio, the standards is everything. So you routinely hear stories about plus 4 dB output, and that's normal. And as much as possible, you should tune and calibrate all your machines to that level, which is very high. Basically, it means 1.24 volt output on balanced connector. But in the high end and just normal home audio, there is no such standard. Yeah, there is kind of like one, but nobody pays much attention to it, and most people simply ignore it. But it is much lower level, and typically it is not XLR but RCA. In some cases XLR2, but that's getting more exotic. Why is it that way? Well, simply because there are so many different mixes of audio companies and their products that you can never establish any meaningful standard. So what do you do in this case? It's simple. You rely on your volume control, on your main preamplifier in your system. Whatever you connect to that preamplifier, you can always, hopefully, find the position for the volume control that gives you the proper volume in your system. And usually this volume control has very broad range, so the issue rarely pops up, and in most cases you can simply connect random units together and they will work fine within the limitations of normal home audio. The preamplifier you're looking at right now was designed originally for home audio. Yes, high-end audio, but it's still home audio, so it does not comply with any professional standards. And there is another reason why it doesn't. Because it's supposedly very clean execution of a minimalist tube circuit. And being minimalist, it actually jettisons all kind of superficial accessories, including the gain adjustment. The gain adjustment always comes at a price. It always intrudes on the sound. There is no way around it. And since you already have one in your preamp, the same volume control we already mentioned, why have another one that potentially introduces some negative effect to the sound when you only need one in reality? So for this reason, this circuit is very, very simple. It's only 3 gain stages of very nice quality vacuum tubes. It has no auxiliary stuff like gain controls. And for this reason, its output is somewhat unpredictable. It is a tube circuit with zero feedback, so there is nothing to stabilize its gain besides the natural parameters of its own tubes. In some sense, this is like people. They come in different shapes, sizes, and whatnot, and the same is true of tubes. So you can find a set of tubes with low gain, and you can find some tubes with higher gain. And therefore, when connected to the same recorder, this preamplifier might produce different outputs in different systems depending upon tube sets and settings. This is not normally bad in your normal home systems because, again, of the volume control on your preamp. You don't see those variations. You just set the volume where you like it. But measurement system is different. And right now we're talking about the calibration system. And calibration standards is the key. And in order to make us to comply with those standards, you need this variable attenuator. You see, in order to do meaningful calibration, you always have to set your reference at some stable number. And it is much better in many regards if you set it to 0 dB point. And what happens if the natural output of your tape recorder plus your preamp is something different from that 0 point? Well, then you adjust the value, the gain controls on the front of that little box. And since it has very good range, you can pretty much always adjust enough to hit the 0. And on top of that, the frequency response of that box is extremely good. It's basically flat from 30 kilohertz down to 20 hertz, with variations at the very bottom of maybe 0.1 or 0.05 dB or less. It's nearly perfect for that application. That's why I'm using it in every of my measurement systems, because it just makes a lot of sense. It makes measurements much easier. So in order for us to start our calibration, let's run the first test track on this tape, which is a 400 hertz at 0 level. As you can see, we have very nice sinusoid on both channels, and both needles showing 0, which is going to be our starting point. It is very easy to count down or up from 0. It's much easier than if you had, for example, minus 1.5 dB starting point. Your calculation just gets much easier. So now I have the tape rewound to this section. We're going to be looking at 400 hertz at minus 10 dB test tone in order to set the reference for our frequency evaluation. As you can see, it's set up very accurately. The sinusoid is clean and zeros are red on both meters. Maybe some minor tweaking, but we're gonna disregard them for now. So that's our starting point. And next we're gonna get the 20 kilohertz frequency. And in order to demonstrate the calibration, I intentionally detuned the right channel on this preamplifier. It's this particular control here. As you can see, it's set to 15-inch IC, and this trim part will be setting high frequency response for that condition. And like I said, I have detuned it already quite a bit. So let's watch the meter on the right. As you can see, it reads way below zero. We want to be here, but it's reading quite a bit lower. So what do we do in this case? We go back to our 20 kilohertz tone. That's still 400 playing. So our reference was stable. And now we're going to 20 kilohertz and watch the right hand side meter. This is 16 kilohertz. Let's put frequency indicator, which is 16. And it reads too high. Okay, so we'll tone it down a little bit. You have to go by judgment, and I usually like setting my 16 kilohertz somewhere in that range, maybe half dB plus. It's just my personal preference. Next frequency is 12 kilohertz, and you can see it's pretty good. It doesn't need any additional adjustment. We can just leave it like that. Ten kilohertz coming. Well, almost perfect. Maybe we can bring it up just slightly, kind of like that. Like I said, you will be doing multiple passes, going back and forth, probably at least from 20 kilohertz down to 8 kilohertz like now. Okay, let's do it again. We go to start of that section and do it again. It may be just okay already. 400 hertz again, perfectly lined up with zero. I disconnected the second channel because it's hard to keep track of 2 meters at the same time. So I use it for monitoring, but when I calibrate channel, I usually pay attention just to one channel at a time. Okay, that's 20 kilohertz, and the level is minus 1.5 dB. That's perfectly acceptable for this machine, which is specified at 2 plus or minus dBs across the range. So the whole range could be 4 dBs, and now it's fine. You can further tune it. You could tweak it down to maybe half dB here and there, but basically it's kind of fine. There are no big variations. One minor twist. Let's try again. .400 hertz. 20 kilohertz. Just like before, the level is about minus 1.5 dB. That's perfectly fine. Different heads will give you slightly different results. Even on the same machine, the left channel head may be slightly different from the right channel. This is 16 kilohertz. It's plus 0.6 dB. Maybe fine. We may bring it down slightly, but it's okay. Those variations are not going to be audible. And so on. This is 12 kilohertz, and next one is going to be 10, and then we're probably going to stop. Yeah, that's all doing just fine. So the question naturally comes up, what about low frequency calibration? And let's see how this machine does it. Let's start with 500 Hertz frequency and go down from there. This is 500, as you can see, it's perfect. (250 Hertz), perfect. It's like 0.2, 0.3 dB plus, pretty much zero or negligible. (125). There's very commonly there is a small peak there, and in this case the peak is about 0.7 dB, which is negligible. (63 dB), same. And 31.5 dB, and it's less than 1 dB down. I would say this is a perfect low frequency response for the machine that doesn't have any adjustment. As you can see, this preamplifier does not have special adjustments for low frequencies. It just relies on the natural quality of your tape recorder and the linear circuitry in the preamp itself. So at this point you can say it's done. The channel's been calibrated to very high accuracy, the levels are fine. The question about adjusting the levels between the channels is also important though. Because if you adjust the channels to be the same on one machine, they're probably going to be different on another. There are always some variations between heads. So I prefer adjusting the gains of the preamp itself and leave it there. So with that in mind, thank you very much for stopping by again. Hopefully you found it informative, and see you next time. Bye-bye.